I love when leftists and the media, well, they're basically the same thing now because the leftists own the media, but I love when they jump to conclusions and try to force a narrative down our throats. So minutes after the Atlanta shootings, the media already had their story about how Robert Aaron Long was against Asians, and his whole attack was predicated on Asian hate, despite having zero evidence except for the fact that he shot some Asians. It's almost like they're using this to try and cover up the fact that most crimes against Asians are committed by black people. Now, I'm not saying every black person is a racist, even though that's what leftists say about white people, but I'm also not going to say something as crazy as no black person can ever be racist. I hate how in America today, every single tragedy is used for political gain. It's kind of disgusting how both sides will do that. As soon as something bad happens, they say, see, this is why we need policy change and reform. But when the mainstream media, the people that are supposed to be giving us unbiased news, are always on one side of it, I can't help but call it out. So I'm just going to acknowledge right now that both shootings were a tragedy, and regardless of either motive, it is terrible that this has happened. Sometimes I wish both sides would just put the politics down for a second and just try to find actual solutions using actual data and see why this stuff is happening and not just force a narrative.
It's directly linked to white supremacy.
But until that day comes, this is what we gotta talk about. So the very first hashtag after the Boulder, Colorado shootings was about gun control, and it said, "Republicans are killing us."
Are you dumb?
Pardon me?
Are you dumb?
I think she's dumb.
Because many Republicans are refusing to bow down to the leftist agenda and stricten up gun regulations. But if you actually look at what's killing people and how these guns are getting obtained, many of them are getting obtained illegally, and getting rid of the machine guns, they call them, the AR-15s and all those dangerous weapons, doesn't do anything because most shootings happen with a handgun, and most shootings are related to gang violence, and having more restrictions on guns would do absolutely nothing. In fact, you know what would help solve a lot of these mass shootings? More guns. And this isn't just coming from some gun fanboy who just loves guns and wants to see them everywhere. I personally do not own a gun. In fact, I have never owned a gun. But what I do is I actually look at data and try to figure out why these are happening and what prevents them, and having more guns in the area stops shootings. You want to know the best solution to stopping someone with a firearm that's intending to kill people? Shooting them. So when we talk about the mass shootings, where do they take place? Well, they take place in churches and they take place in schools. Where are the two most common places where no guns are found? I'll let you guys answer that one. Seriously, think about it. Most of the time, what happens when there's someone that's going on a mass murdering spree? What puts them down or what stops them? Police, right? And what do police have? So what if it didn't take that? Instead of putting an entire school on lockdown and just waiting for the police to show up and hope that he doesn't get into a room where there's not a kid left out that's going to be vulnerable, maybe they should just have teachers that are responsible and have weapons and know how to use them. That's important too. Because taking away guns does stop the source of the shootings, but a criminal is going to be a criminal, so stopping law-abiding citizens from just going and purchasing a gun will not stop a criminal from going out and illegally obtaining one. And then that makes everybody else at risk because they weren't able to get a firearm of their own for their own protection. Also, do you guys want to know another location where mass shooters love to go? Gun-free zones, where they know no one else is going to be armed and no one else is going to be able to stop them. Well, of course, until the cops show up and 20 people are already dead. And if you haven't caught on yet, it's pretty clear the media's two narratives for tragedies like this is either racism or gun control. And you better get used to it because they're not going to change that anytime soon. Every single time a crime happens, it's either because of racism or a problem in the system. And the reason they do that is to look like they're on the side of morals, and so that way they don't actually have to find a solution. They essentially get no pressure being put on them to actually solve these problems because, hey guys, it's racism, what do you want us to do? It's the Republicans' fault, it's the Donald Trump supporters. And I think it's embarrassing how leftists and the mainstream media continue to give Democrats a pass and not hold them accountable for anything that happens. No matter what happens in this country, it's the Republicans' fault and it's Donald Trump's fault. It's the white man's fault and racism is the cause. All the leftists like to do is virtue signal, cancel everybody, ruin comedy, and whenever they fail at something, they change the rules so that way they're no longer failing. When a white guy shoots somebody, it's racism, but then as you see here, if a person of color shoots somebody, then we just need to get rid of guns, guys. It's that simple. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more content just like this. And I'll see you in the next upload.